The hello packets are sufficient enough for communication's sake to have all of the information necessary to perform the designated router election and share that information. Now, the priority values, if we want to manipulate these, there's a range of 0 through 255. The significance of 0 meaning we are not participating, not in OSPF, but in the election process for the designated router. We cannot be the designated router. A higher value means we're more likely to be the designated router. The BDR is the second highest. So if I want to do this, I go to interface level, and I control it with IP OSPF priority, and then I choose my value. So if we were to go here, where would we find ourselves manipulating the priority values? Probably R1 and R2. Firstly, if I do a show IP OSPF interface, the Ethernet interfaces are of the right network type. Point-to-point networks do not perform designated router election. They do not need the concept of designated router because the media type only has two sides. We don't need a central point of contact for that media. So if I go here and I want to say, I want gig, I want this interface to be, and actually, let's do the interfaces that are going down to the VLANs on the left-hand side. I might do something like this. Now, I don't actually think this is very important for the real world, but I want you to have seen it. So I could say IP OSPF priority, and I could say something like 32. That gives me a lot of leeway. And then I could go to R2 that goes down to the exact same subnet. And I could say something like, I don't want it to be the designated router. I want it to be the backup designated router. So let's say I came up with a convention of 16 for BDRs and 32 for DRs. Now I still have to restart the OSPF process for this interface election for the designated router election to happen. But all things being equal, R1 would be the designated router for this segment. R2 would be the backup designated router. One last thing. I want you to understand that the router ID is used as a tiebreaker. So this is going to affect you a lot, right? Because very rarely do we get involved in manipulating the priority values. So the higher router ID, or the highest router ID, is, for all intents and purposes, the way that your network is probably influenced right now.